Okay, Roch, you're on. I'm going off.
Okay, so I think I ended off that Hashem created Or, the first creation. It can't be a coincidence. Aleph Vav Resh is the same Shoresh, right? Because Or is clarity, Or is vision, Or is light, Or is understanding. Same with Birkus Kahanim. One of the brachas is that Yair Hashem Panav Elecha. The Yair is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will show himself to us. Hashem is going to make sure that he sees us. And in the opposite way as well, that we should have a vision of seeing him, whatever that means. So we're seen, and they also presented themselves to be seen, or they too saw something of truth, Avraham, Sarah, Hagar, Lot, that could have, or did not, lead them to their destination. Last week, Lech lecha me'artzecha el haaretz asher erecha. Again, same word. To the destination which I will show you. Meaning that you will see my appearance, you will visualize what you're going to understand. Let's understand. I'm just going to deviate for a second. I'm going to give you a sod of the pardes of the garden of Torah, because the Torah could be interpreted as pshat, remez, drash, sod, the pardes, the garden. Vayar elav Hashem be'elonei mamre. Vayera elav Hashem be'elonei mamre. It's very interesting that I must have taught this thousands of times, and I never saw that it did not say Avraham. It says Vayera Elav. Elav. So I saw in a Sefer, the Me'orinayim, which is a little bit esoteric, and he claims and he says that this is the secret. Elav means that a Kodesh Baruch Hu appears to each and every one of us. Now you have to remember, these psukim are the foundation of who we are. These psukim is the hora'ah, the guide to what is, to what will be, what should be. This is the guidebook. So the Me'orinayim says, taking from the Zohar, that the pasuk secret is that Hashem appears to each and every one, all of us, even those who are in the tents of Mamre. Mamre, in translation, means rebellion, meaning a Kodesh Baruch Hu appears to each Jew, no matter where he is. V'hu yoshev pesach ha'ohel. And what happens is when there is the appearance, when a Kodesh Baruch Hu shows himself in whatever levush he's showing and unveils the garment in front of us, then the doors open. Petach ha'ohel opens. It motivates us to move, to do tshuva, to move forward, to improve, to become closer to Kodesh Baruch Hu. Kicham, to begin to feel the heat. Vayisa einav, we then lift up our eyes, because it takes our eyes to be able to see, right? We've learned about Re'iyah many times way back when. Vayar. It's so crazy. Again, Vayar. Could have just said Vayisa einav. Vayar. Vayar v'hinei shlosha nashim nitzavim alav. So when a Kodesh Baruch Hu appears to us and he opens up the doors and we begin to sense the heat of the closest to a Kodesh Baruch Hu, we lift up our eyes and then we see three. What's the three? The three are the three pillars of the Torah. Torah, Avodah, and Gemulus Chasadim, which is the pillars of our lives. And then what do? Vayar. And then our seeing it makes us understand what we need to do. Our Havana, our understanding becomes deeper. Vayaratz. And we run towards it. It's the most fabulous idea. That's a beautiful idea. So Avraham sees and he acts on it. Vayar, we see that. But when it came to Lot, something happened. Vayar Lot, he saw something of truth. He fails. Vatere Sarah, she sees something of truth. She succeeds. Hagar sees something way too late. So the Parsha is showing us Uri Isam, Oso Uschartem. You will see and you will remember. We all have the ability to see. We all have the choice to see, to understand, to perceive what we want to see, which I've discussed already. Is it climate change or is it Hashem? Is it science or is it HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So let's delve to understand what they saw, why they failed, why they succeeded, and how we connect to it. Lot is our first person. He's the first person we're going to talk about. We're going to try to understand what happens to him. How are we to understand his behavior bichlal, right? So the malachim come to his house. They come to his house. Vayar Lot, he sees them. He welcomes them. He brings them into his home. And then bang, he's willing to sacrifice his own daughters to mob violence. He sees something, but something stops. Now he deviates and he goes away from the truth. So we need to look in the text to see what happens to him. In Parshas Lech Lecha, when Avram and Lot depart, it says over there, Vayahel ad stam. Very interesting words. Usually it's Vayeshev and Vayagar. It's either I'm living here temporary or permanently. So what does it mean? He tented up until stam, which means that it describes his relationship he had to the land of Stam. Really, it was like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, a little ambivalent on his part. I'm aware of the nature of the city, so I'll sit here, but I'll sit there. I believe that if I live at the edge of the city, I won't be affected. That's mistake number one. Later, we encounter Lot when he's taken during a captivity with the war with Stam. There it says, V'hu Yoshev. Hu Yoshev b'Stam. Yashav is already permanent, meaning I feel like a citizen. And here we see the transformation. He's no longer living on the edge of the city, but rather in Stam. So now he's a complete citizen. Later in this week's Parsha, the visit of the angels, 2 angels come to Stam, and Lot is sitting bisha'ar, in the gates of Stam. Complete transformation. The elders sat in the shar, in the gate. The chashuvim, the important people, sat in the gate. He has moved from the edge to the city and now to the gates as a respected elder of the evil city. He could not really withstand the allure of Stam. He falls prey to it. He's not an evil man. He's a weak man. He's not an evil man. He thinks that he can withstand the temptation. He begins to use his re'iyah, but he fails. He just sees, but it doesn't get absorbed. It doesn't get internalized. Vayar Lot, he welcomes them, but then he fails. He thinks he can live in 2 worlds, but he can't. That's Lot. His re'iyah lacked yiras shemayim. His re'iyah lacked yira, meaning without the yiras shemayim, you cannot take your vision, your perception, your sight even further. Next, Vateri Sarah, what did she see? She saw that Yishmael, what he was doing with Yitzchak, she had tremendous clarity, and she was filled with yiras shemayim. She understood who she was standing in front of. She understood who was above her. She understood her mission, and she made the right choice. Avram was not exactly happy about it. Hashem said, Shema bekola, listen to her voice. Hagar, on the other hand, chose not to see. When she went into the desert and she thought her baby was dying, she took her baby, threw him across, and left him there without trying to help him, giving up immediately. There was a bear mayim there. She chose not to see it. Only after the malach spoke to her, then it says she saw the well. Afterwards. And now we come to Avraham. What does he see? What does his re'iyah represent? How does Chazal interpret it as part of his yiras shemayim? And this takes us to the last test, the test of Avram Avinu, which is the test of the Akedah. It's our test. All the tests that he goes through is our journey. The first test starts with Lech Lecha. The last one also starts with the words Lech Lecha. The test of Akedas Yitzchak, where we see how he struggles with his emotions. He's actually silent, first time in his own thoughts. It goes against his nature completely. He has so many questions. He's actually bounded by all his emotions and his struggles and his questions. Ne'ekad, to be binded together. It starts with Lech Lecha, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, now you've got to go inside of yourself. Complete isolation. You've got to attach yourself to me. And through the test, you will know the Lecha. You're going to know exactly who you are. Kach na. Please take. I know that what I'm asking from you is very difficult. I know your whole inner self must be struggling against it. You wanted this son in order to complete the mission. It is something that's against your nature. You are completely attached and dependent on him to fulfill the mission. But I am demanding him. Because you see, there was a conversation between the both of them. He said, Kachnas Bincha, I have two children. Well, the one that's one to the mother, but each one is separate to a mother. The one that you love, I love them both. Es Yitzchak. Because that's the one that I know that you're putting everything into him to fulfill and to continue your heritage. And go to Har HaMoriah. Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch says, HaMoriah comes from the word Hey Reish Hey, which is to give birth, Morah Mem Vav Reish Hey, and Torah, the place which will give birth to the teaching of the law. Mankind is to be spiritually reborn. Why? Because that's the place where Ahora'ah, Hey Vav Reish Aleph Hey, is going to be given to your people. They're going to see something different. Avram's going to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a different garment. Avram's going to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu even in the darkness of a test, in the choshech of the struggle. That is what Avram is going to visualize. So he gets up and he saddles his donkey. The chamor represents the emotional part of his insides that's struggling, but he rides on top of it, and they go on their way. And on the third day, Vayisa Avram Eseinav, he lifts up his eyes. Lifting up your eyes to be able to confront the situation, even when it's difficult, even when it's tough, to lift up your eyes, to remove the barriers, and to be able to see. And what does he see? Vayaris hamakom merachak. What a phenomenal pasuk. Shot. He sees the Haramiri from afar. Rashi says the cloud was attached. No. He lifts up his eyes and he sees the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but he knows inside of himself HaKadosh Baruch Hu is far now. Meaning what? I see Hashem from afar. I do not understand what's going on here. I don't get it. I feel a little bit distant. I know that distance is going to bring me to something else. I see it. I see Hashem in the distance, even though I feel his distance. You hear that, ladies? You hear that? You hear? I see HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the distance because I choose to see, even though I feel his distance. Rashi says he sees the cloud. What's the cloud? The cloud is the mist, the fog. Even in Revelation, we saw it by Har Sinai. There is a cloud. There is a revelation, because even though HaKadosh Baruch Hu's there, there's still some sort of distance there. He remains silent. He understands that he has entered in a completely different world. The world of Nisayon. The world of challenge. And the only thing that he needs to do is to stay strong and to pass that test. To respond to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's will with dignity. Can somebody mute? It's really distracting me. The M over there, she's not muted. Letter M. He turns to his Na'arim and he says, you guys stay here, down here with your chamor. Because what was he afraid of? He was afraid that they would not see what they were supposed to see. He's asking them to stay with the chamor because he is afraid that they wouldn't see the truth. They would only see what their physical eyes would see, which is what? Which is Avram trying to sacrifice his child. Vayelchu shnehem yachtav. And they both go together, father and son. Deep in thought, Avraham knows. Yitzchak knows something too. And listen what he says to him. He feels something. And he says to him, he says, Vayomer Yitzchak el Avraham Aviv. Yitzchak says to his father, Aviv. He calls him his father. Avi, are you still my father? Are you going to still act like my father? Did something change here? Vayomer Hineni. I'm here. I'm still your father. But, see, he said, so then where's the seh? I don't understand. Like, where is it? Where is it? Vayomer Avraham. Elokim yir'eh lo haseh. Yir'eh lo. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to show us. He's going to show us exactly what has to be done. Bini. And it's possible that it could be Bini. But remember, we need to see Hashem through all of this. It's Hashem. Vayelchu shnehem yachtav. Vayelchu shnehem yachtav. Now that they both know where they're going, they both go with the same ratzon to fulfill a Kadosh Baruch Hu's. I think the person's sleeping. That's why, and she's snoring. The person.
I can't delete it. You mute her. I can't do it. I'll be trying.
I think she's sleeping. So let's try to dig a little deeper into what does it mean they went together, and then we'll understand it. Vayelchu shnehem yachtav. They both went together, understanding where they were going, but they went b'tuv lev, with a full heart. The Kedah causes Avraham to bring down the Shechina towards the land. When Adam sinned, everybody, the Shechina came all the way down, actually went all the way back up to the 7 Rikiah. That's what happened. Avram was the first now. He needed to bring it down. Yitzchak brings it again. Yaakov brings it down, all the way until Moshe brings it down to the ground, okay, to us. So Avram has to bring Hashem to a place of Hashem Yira'eh. Hashem will appear. He's got to bring HaKadosh Baruch Hu down into a place where the levush is going to be, where we're going to see Hashem, feel Hashem, and Hashem is going to reveal Himself. I'm losing my my concentration because of the noise. So God can be seen. The question is, who was it about the? Hello, little M. Can you mute yourself?
You know what? Ahavia
is the only one who can do it now. She's co-host.
How can I help you?
Okay.
Please
what do you need?
M is not muted. I think she's snoring.
Okay, I'm going to mute everybody and then Rochel open, okay?
Yeah.
So hang on one second. Sorry about that. Okay, I muted everybody. And now I'm so sorry. Okay. Now, Rochel, can you unmute? You have to unmute.
Okay.
Perfect. Now nobody can unmute themselves.
Okay. So the question is, what was it about the Akedah and not the other test that allowed Avram to bring down the Shekhinah that Hashem is going to appear? Hashem Yira'eh. Now, the Avos were the Merkava of the Shekhinah. You have to understand, there's Midos of the Kodesh Baruch Hu, Chesed, Emes, and Gvura, were all the Midos of Hashem, and the only way that everybody can get it was through the pipeline of the Avos. Hashem was able to rest his Shekhinah on the land through them. That's why Avram says at the end, Hashem Yira'eh. Now Hashem is going to appear, and he can dwell amongst the people through Avram perfecting his midah. Which midah? The midah of Yiras Shemayim, which came from his vision, from his re'iyah. Now, what caused his midas hachesed to be completed in the Akedah? He had to attach himself to Yitzchak. That's what it means, Vayelchu Shnehem Yachtav. Meaning, Yitzchak was Gvura. Gvura is Yiras Shemayim. When I control myself, I hold myself back. That comes from Yiras Shemayim, the lo saseh. When I don't do something, I hold myself back. The chesed, the avos Hashem, is from chesed, really, right? To do a mitzvah's aseh, you need to prepare, but it comes from the yesod of ahava, of chesed. Now, koach chesed comes from ahava, and koach gvura comes from yira. One without the other cannot be. If we only have avos Hashem, we could really make a zilzul because, oh, God knows he loves me. I love him too. I don't have to do this today. But if I only do it from yira, that's also not good because it can lead to resentment. So this was the sod of Vayelchu Shnehem Yachtav. The midah of Gvura and Chesed went together. The midah of Gvura, yira, which was Yitzchak, was akad, ne'ekad, bounded together with the midas of Chesed, of Ahava, which was Avraham. Avraham was not complete until he attached himself to Yitzchak. And then they would be the Merkava for the Shekhinah. And now the Malach says, Atayadati ki yarei Eloki bata. Now I know that your midah of Ahava and Yira are joined together. It's complete. And now I could appear. Hashem Yira'eh. Hashem could come down, reveal himself in his midos through the avos. Yira is when we see Hashem and we see his power, we see it, we think of our shiftless, our humility, and then the ahava kicks in and we say, oh, how so very much I want to serve you. We see it every day. To make it one. That's our avoda. Reishis chachma yiras Hashem. So the nisayon, his midah of ahava, could not have been enough. He needed to go inside himself to pull the yiras shemayim and to pull out the yira. And where did it come from? It came from his vision. It came from the fact that he saw Hashem from the distance. He felt this distance, but he was able to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And later on, we see that he wants to nick him because he wants to be Mekayim the mitzvah. They call him and they say, don't do it. And he lifts up his eyes again. And it says that he sees an aisle. He sees the aisle. And the aisle is tangled up in a bush. And he immediately takes the aisle and understands from what he sees that this was meant for him. And this was meant for him to complete the mitzvah. And that's when he calls the place Hashem Yireh. Because I see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is here with me, even in the darkness of my Nisayon, and saved me. And he sees something else. He sees the aisle that is tangled up in the bush, is the vision of the future of his people that are going to be tangled up in Golas, but the Karen of the aisle is going to release us from it. So this is the strong foundation for all of us. When we think God left us, but he really hasn't. Hashem Yira'eh. And I think that's all part of Yiras Shemayim. Yiras Shemayim is when we make our own Akedah. Akeda means to bind. Many times what happens is our heart wants something, our eye sees something else, our head tells us something, and our limb does something else. But if we are concentrating on our Yiras Shamayim, what we do is we bind together our heart, our soul, our body, our eyes, our head, and our limbs in order to do the Ratzon of Hashem. In our lives, that's our Nisayan. To bind it all together, the Ava, the Yira, every part of our limbs, the contradictions, in order to do the Avodas of Hashem. And our Avodas Hashem, and that is Mesiras Nefesh. To be able to bind it all together, even though we may not understand it, even though we may struggle, and even though we really don't want, and even though we feel the darkness, that's Mesiras Nefesh. And that's what they went through. But they were able to do it. And because they were able to do it, we can do it as well. And we have the proper sight, the proper re'iyah, the proper understanding, the proper clarity, which really stems from our Yiras Hashem when we are constantly understanding in front of who we are standing, and that it's all Hashem. Then our hearts and our souls and our body and our limbs are bound together, me'ukad. I want to just finish with something, a very, very beautiful idea, that when they were climbing up that mountain, and that's the mountain of the life, we all climb a mountain. If you notice, it's given on a mountain, not in a valley. And the Medrash describes their tears. It's very, very emotional to read that Medrash. Avram's crying, Yitzchak's crying, right? They're crying. So us little people will say, well, they're crying, because Avraham, this is his boy. And also, what's everybody going to say? Here I am going against whatever I taught. And Yitzchak, oh my gosh, what am I going to tell my mother? But in the Sefer Be'er Yosef, I found something else. Something beautiful. In their tears, there was something that they saw. So beautiful. What was Avram crying about? Avram was crying because he saw a world without Yitzchak. And he couldn't really visualize that. How can there be a world without a Yitzchak? How can there be a world without Gvura, without Yiras Hashem? I can't. So his vision, even though he thought about it and he saw it, he really wasn't able to see it. And he cried. And why does Yitzchak cry? Because Yitzchak looked at his father and he saw inside the tsar of his father. And where did it stem from? It stemmed from because they were united. The Abba and the Yira come together. When there's Abba and the Yira come together, we're able to see the tsar of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're able to see the tsar of the people around us. We're able to see much more. We're able to realize what HaKadosh Baruch Hu really does want from us. And the Torah is the greatest hora'ah. The greatest mountain that we can climb is the mountain of Hara Moriah. So with that, I leave you. I'm sorry that I had to rush. Have a wonderful Shabbos, wonderful day, wonderful week. And that's it. Thank you.